I can see we've already got some people there queuing up, which is nice. Yeah, Nelly, you're absolutely right. I was going to say this. Somebody else has already prompted me. I have no clue how to do the reminders and the premieres. I'm definitely going to have to go check it out on a YouTube tutorial somewhere. So hopefully on the next one, I'll get it right and there'll be a little message pinged out to you to tell you that, or to remind you that I am going live. Just a quick check. Hoot is in the house. Hi. Hope you're doing well. I'm assuming everyone can actually see and hear me. If you can, just somebody let me know. There's a couple of you in the comments already. I'll just give it a minute and see if any more pop in. There's another one popped in. So we've got Nelly and Hoot and Ron and Isaac. Thanks, sound looks good. Thank you very much. Wouldn't go so far as to say looking good, but you can see me, that's what counts. Monkey chops, yeah, thank you. So we're on and it's working, which in itself is an achievement. Bit of a cryptic philosophical title today about focus on things you can change and not focusing on things that you can't change. But I've been watching, and I guess you've been watching as well, lots of different YouTube channels. 2020 has been a bizarre year so far in many different ways. Whether it's the, dare you say that word, medical crisis. I don't want to get kicked off straight away before I get started. Whether it's ongoing medical crisis, Steve Hughes, hi. Or whether it's the weather that we've been having, not just here, but all over the world. That's been quite disruptive this year. The elections, dare I mention those on YouTube now? The elections in the States. So it's easy, I guess, for people watching all of this stuff going on, and some of it quite serious stuff going on. It's easy to get distracted or to feel a little bit overwhelmed. I've kind of had my own issues this year. We've got some major issues going on at work right now. Everybody at work is kind of obsessing about what's going on, and it seems like normal life has just gone on hold for many people. So with all these different things, I guess it is quite easy to get distracted, or to just kind of sit there thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? How do I stop COVID? How do I get the right result in the elections? How do I change the weather even? And my message really, my starting point on this video anyway, is don't do that, because there are just some things that you can't change. No matter how much you sit and ponder and consider and scream and shout and yell, you aren't going to change the weather. You're certainly not going to change COVID. The government's thrown enough money at this now here in the UK and I guess elsewhere, to realise, I hope, that it's not doing anything really. So you just can't change these things. And if you just sit and constantly focus on them and worry about them, you're never going to get anything done. So in terms of COVID, a long time ago, I just decided that I wasn't going to think about it. It might come up in conversation at work and we'll have a moan and a groan, but I don't sit at night sort of panicking and thinking, oh my God, when's it going to end? And I daren't do anything now. I just don't. I just go to work every day and I kind of just forget about it. All right, when I pop in the supermarket and I have to put the mask on, I don't forget about it, otherwise someone will be shouting at me. But you get what I'm saying, I hope, that if you just spend your entire life thinking and worrying and trying to to fight these things that do come along that you can't, as a person, change, you're never going to progress. So I'm trying to put all of this stuff behind me and focus on things that I know I can do. And you might have seen in the last video with the garden room build, I had a weekend where I had really great progress. Weather was with me and I got an awful lot done. And then last weekend, unfortunately, the weather wasn't with me, and I kind of just potted about doing smaller things. If I was obsessed by it, then I'd have sat there all day doing absolutely nothing, just worrying about the rain, and nothing would have got done. By ignoring it and not being distracted by it or disheartened by it, something did get done. And I know I say it often in my videos about it's a little bit of progress, but at least it's progress. It is true. So kind of the starting point for the chat tonight was about that. If you are sat there obsessing about some big thing like COVID or the elections or the weather or whatever else it might be, just take a step back and realize that no matter how much you sit and worry about it, you're not physically capable yourself of changing that particular thing. So instead of doing that, find a way around it, think about something else and try and make some progress. Because even if it's a little, it is still progress. Bit of an analogy for you. If you think about sailing a ship, if I was to jump in a sailboat and set off from the UK, heading towards the States, if the wind is blowing behind me, I'm going to make real good progress. But if when I get on the beach to launch my boat and the wind's blowing towards me, and it's a sailboat, remember, if I sit down and think, oh no, the wind's in the wrong direction, I'll just sit here and wait and maybe it'll change tomorrow, I could be sat there all year. So what sailors do in this case, when the wind is blowing towards them, they do something called tacking. So they'll sail with the wind, even though it's not going straight ahead, it's going to the side, and they'll just do that, side to side. They kind of maneuver their way around that oncoming wind. Bit of an analogy there. Maybe that will help get your head around it, or maybe it won't. So that's where I wanted to kick off with, just to kind of get people to think about some things you just can't change, and rather than being frozen and distracted by it, just have a little think and work your way around it, and hopefully you will get some progress. Let me just lean in a bit and see who else has popped up since I started my my little lecture. It's not a lecture, please don't take it that way. Paul Oakes, Sola, hi. Sabrina. Don't let your mother on. So we have got a few in. I don't know how many there are. 16 and 6 thumbs up. I do believe, Jack and Jill, hi. I do believe that by hitting that thumbs up button, I keep watching lots of channels and they're always going on, hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs up. I hesitate to do that, but now I've mentioned it, hit the thumbs up, because they do tell me it helps the algorithm. Don't know whether that's true or not, or whether that's just them bluffing. Sorry, my phone is buzzing. I turned it off onto silent, but it still buzzes. So I've just kicked that out. Yeah, so I just thought I'd start with that thought as a starting point. But I also thought today I'd just run by you a few things that I'm doing. Hopefully the weekend will be nice for me. It is forecasting rain, unfortunately, but I'll just keep ploughing on. And you never know, I might get a few hours without any rain and I can make some progress on the garden room build. But in the meantime, I'm using my time wisely, and I am thinking happy thoughts about overwintering, learning more about what I can plant early. I have just pulled this out of the loft, the attic space. That's my long-term seed stores. You might remember in a previous video I was talking about subject of seeds and saying buy heirloom seeds wherever you can. And if you can't buy those or you're not quite sure, then test them. I've got lots and lots of heirlooms in these other secondary containers, and then I've got your run-of-the-mill, buy them in the shop type seeds. This time of year, if you're lucky and you pop into the discount stores or maybe even the garden centres, you might just at this time of year find that they're on sale because nobody's buying them. It's generally they buy them in the springtime. Makes sense, I guess, if you're planting. So have a little look. You never know, you might just pick some up. The prices can be quite dramatic between spring and now. If you go in spring when everybody's after planting out, you'll find your packets in the UK, I don't know, a couple of pounds, £3, depends what they are. This time of year, you'll find them for 99p a pound. So it's worth having a little look around. I know the shops now will be full of Christmassy stuff, but it is worth having a little look and just seeing. So I'm thinking about spring, trying to keep myself positive and some happy little thoughts, reading lots of books about starting off plants early. Clearly, I've got the garden room project up and running now. That in itself is a way of me starting off the planting season early. Been doing also a little bit of a research on things like grow lights, just to give it an extra head start because wintertime daylight hours aren't very long. So find yourself something like that to get you out of what can be a bit of a malaise with all this bad news that's going around. I also got my book delivered. I am really pleased with this. It is huge, hardback, on mushrooms, and if I just randomly open a page, have I picked a decent one? I can't see really. Yeah, I have. It gives you an idea of how nice this is. Lots and lots of good colour photos of all these different types of mushrooms. I'll flick a little page so you can see. It's not just the one page with the pictures on. Every single page is like this. So I was really pleased to pick that up. And not only does it have pictures of all of the edible ones and the poisonous ones. I'm bound to do this wrong now. I'll try and pick somewhere near the back and see. Oh, there we go. It gives you recipes for cooking mushrooms as well. So I'm really looking forward to that next year as I do a little bit more reading up and finding out what's edible and what isn't edible. I'll just take another quick look and see if anybody else has popped in. Part of today, I wanted to kind of ask you what it is that you're up to. This time of year, generally, it's quiet. I would urge you, though, as I always do in lots of my videos that I put out, before things do get crazy, and potentially they could, we're in the middle of a lockdown right now till the 2nd of December here in the UK. So everything in terms of supply chain is quite stable right now. There was a bit of a slight panic at the start of this lockdown, but don't neglect to take advantage of the fact that stuff is available still in the shops. Supply chain is still running. I've not heard any scare stories, but I think towards the end of this year, as we come out of the lockdown here in the UK, everyone goes crazy at Christmas time, running around each other's houses. You just know for sure that in the start of the new year, January, we are going to see another spike. So don't neglect to take advantage of the chance you have now to just keep topping up on those preps. But if I can kind of open it up to everybody and just ask you what you're doing, or if you got any questions off the most recent videos on the garden room, or anything for that matter, now's your chance. I'm sat here. you can ask away. Everyone seems to be chatting away between each other in the comment section. Monkey Chops, thank you very much. Nice comment, lovely videos. If that's a mushroom book, I want to see spooky shoes of Mayfair. I don't have any fall, and that is the truth. Clean living guy. Am I? Careful with the mushrooms. Always seek a local expert. So yes, I can't just go off that book. This is very true. A couple of people have commented though in some of the videos, and actually a couple of people commented at work because they've also been looking. There's quite a few mushroom specialist channels out there on YouTube. I watched one myself the other day. Some of them are quite obvious, and hopefully we'll find out in due course next year. The majority of the mushrooms on the field have actually died back. There's only a couple of small sections of the field that still have them on there. But when I was looking at the weekend, there are some really big ones, but you can tell they are starting to die off. Also, something on the field has been eating them. There's a little patch near the cabin that, I don't know whether it's birds or rabbits or squirrels or what it is, but something's been chewing away at them. So I'm guessing that they're not poisonous. I'm just looking through the comments again. Apologies because I'm staring at one bit of the screen only. Yeah, quite a few people saying careful with mushrooms. I will be. I've not touched any of them yet. If I get the mushrooms, do a cooking video. That's the plan. If I do get round to cooking them, I do want to eat them, so I will do a little video. Talking about cooking videos, there's something I've been meaning to do all week, but it's been so crazy at work this last few weeks now. There's an awful lot going on, and it's a bit tense. I've been meaning to do a cooking video. Everything is there in the kitchen, ready to go. I just haven't been able to find the time after I get in from work and settle myself in. I just haven't found the time, but I will try and do that. We'll see how the weekend goes, I guess, with the weather. If I can get cracked on with the cabin and get some good progress, just to get it weather tight, I'd feel a lot more comfortable in myself, and I might be able to finish early on Sunday, who knows, and do that cooking video. Chops, we love your cooking with your preps videos. Well, this is cooking with preps, certainly. It's I don't think I've done anything yet that isn't cooking with your preps, but as a bit of a taster, no pun intended, there's a couple of vegetables and there's canned spam involved, and everybody loves spam, don't they? If I'd said hot dogs, you'd have all switched off straight away. So I'm just looking through the comments to see if anybody's mentioning what they're up to right now. You must be doing something. I don't know, apart from one, and I don't see on the comments, Nelly on the land has land, I know. What about other people? When I was talking earlier about focusing on things that you can change, I'm kind of reminded about the land that I have now. I'll kind of go off on a tangent, but I'll keep an eye on the comments just in case somebody does ask or tell me what they're doing. But I'll do this little story first. I'm 58 now, so getting on a bit. And from a long time ago, I've always wanted a little bit of land, but I was kind of obsessing about a house with a sizable garden. And if any of you live in the UK, and I know that quite a few of you on here do, then you will already be holding your head in your hands going, but it's so expensive. And you're right, it is. House prices in the UK are expensive anyway, but they don't come with land normally. They come with a tiny pocket handkerchief sized garden. It's quite rare to find a house with a sizable piece of land. Anything above a quarter or a half an acre, they're just really difficult to find. And if you do find them, I certainly can't afford them. We're talking megabucks. And that actually did have me in limbo, because year after year after year, I'd troll through all of the online listings and I was just depressing myself. I was looking and thinking, how can I possibly earn enough to pay a mortgage on something that expensive, let alone how do I find a deposit? So I kind of learned a little bit of a lesson from that about not focusing on things that you can't change. Because after quite a few years of being fed up with it, it did dawn on me. I thought, well, hang on a minute. I can have a little tiny house that's cheap, and then if I could find a little piece of land that's cheap, for what I paid for my land, I'd never have got there had I just kept obsessing about having the house on it. So I've kind of done the sailing ship analogy, and I've kind of gone around the big problem of not having enough money and settled for, it's not second best, but I've settled for a bit of land without a house on, but it's big enough, and fingers crossed, at some point in the future, who knows, I might even get planning to get a proper house of some description on there. So in the meantime, I have my land, which I wouldn't have had I kept on that same old track of looking for a house with something, some sizable land on it. I'm gaining all the experience of being down there and working on it. I'm also gaining the experience of building something on there. So yeah, don't focus on stuff that you can't change, find a way around it. So many videos about running around in camo gear instead of planting for the future. There are lots of videos. That is very true. I think I've mentioned in previous videos, hats off to people who are experts in bushcraft and survival, outdoor survival. It is a skill, it really is, and it takes a long time to acquire those skills. But I think I have mentioned, and I don't mean any disrespect to survivalists or bushcrafters when I say it, but in a proper off-grid, grid down scenario, you're not going to be able to just pick your bag up, walk out into the woods and suddenly live a semi-normal existence. It just is not feasible. You might survive for a few days, you might survive for a few weeks, depends what you can forage while you're out there. But at some point, you're going to run out of food. If it is a grid down scenario, you're going to come across some pretty unsavory characters at some point. And I don't care what plethora of weaponry you might have at your disposal, that doesn't help you if you're asleep. So yeah, I'm all for survival skills and bushcrafting skills, but I wouldn't depend on that as a long-term sustainable future. You do have to have some people around you to help out, and you do need to have some kind of base where you can start to produce your own food. Jack and Jill, I'm already off-grid solar, 1 year of food. Well done for that. Marine water maker. You mean a desal plant of some description, I'm guessing. Compost toilet, working on my bug-out vehicle. Any vehicle, to be honest, is better than no vehicle. Composting toilet. A lot of people, it's not a pun, a lot of people turn their nose up at compost toilets. Whenever the subject has cropped up, I am amazed how many people just go, oh no, I couldn't do that. Well, it's better than sitting in a bush, for sure. And again, going back to this off-grid scenario, if you've made a little base somewhere, the last thing you want to do is go to the toilet all over it. And composting solution really is the only long-term sustainable solution. Even a septic tank is going to fill at some point, and if you don't have the normal supply chain or grid to someone to come and pump it away, what are you going to do? Once it's full, it's full. I'm still saving for a small plot of land. This is Isaac, and I'm hoping I'll be able to build a home on it. building homes on land you own, as I have found out, in fact, I just said it, kind of. There are so many laws. I don't know where you are, Isaac. Are you in the UK or are you somewhere else? You'll have to just pop another comment in and say where you are. Country, if you're not wanting to say where exactly. UK, okay. I don't know what research you've done so far. I spent ages and ages and ages looking, and to be honest, I had no clue. And there's not many tutorial videos kicking around on how to buy land. Lots of people will tell you where to look for land, but the actual mechanics of what to look for, I did put a video out, I think it was just before I found the piece of land I have now, and I outlined quite a few things to watch out for, because in the UK, there are different types of land. There's what you call agricultural land, so proper farmland. There's what they call pony paddocks or equestrian use land. Then you're into your spare land that developers have used for building, and there's a little piece left over that wasn't suitable or didn't fit in the plan, and they'll sell that off. And then you're into actual open moorland or heathland or woodland, which is not really suitable for growing on. And then brownfield sites, so you'll get land on the outskirts of towns that back in the day might have been an old industrial area that has since been demolished and become overgrown. There's lots of different kinds of land, and they all have their own little pitfalls or benefits, depending which way you look at it. But land also, people who are selling land will quite often attach restrictions to the use of that land once you've bought it. And as I say, in the previous video, I did list some of those things to look out for. More than happy to do another video or even a whole live chat, if you like, on that. On the subject of which, do feel free to throw in anything that you think you would like to see on future live chats, because that's part of why I'm here. I'm here to try and share what I've learned and share mistakes I've made along the way, as well as pick up stuff that you leave in the comments section. So any top tips are always welcome. But yeah, Isaac, land, there's lots of stuff to think about, and do check carefully in the sale conditions as to what you can and can't do. But if you would like more, I'm happy to do that on a future live stream or maybe a cabin chat. Just let me know. I'm growing mushrooms as a painkiller, not magic ones. Do you know, talking about magic ones, my lad was down, it wasn't last weekend, it was a few weeks ago, I think, dropped some wood off, and he'd seen the video where I spent ages looking at all these different kinds of mushrooms, and his friend had seen that, and my lad came down and he spent ages running around the field taking pictures of all these different mushrooms to send to his mate, who I think was looking for magic mushrooms. I didn't quiz too deeply. Do you think you get any chickens or anything for your land, Ash? Yes, I absolutely do. I had hoped this year to have had chickens or fish on the land. And you remember the pond fail. Went to all the trouble of digging the pond out where it sits right now, and it doesn't hold water. I suspect it might get a bit in during this upcoming winter, but it doesn't settle. It doesn't settle in there. I don't know whether that's because it's not deep enough, or whether it's because it's so close to the land drain that runs along the back of the cabin. I suspect the latter. I think it's just too close to that land drain, and there's an easy route out for it to soak away into the drain. Long-term viewers will remember that I've looked at another part of the field, which does have standing water when we get heavy rains. and that's probably a better proposition than my first effort. But it is a learning curve. No matter what I'm doing, whether it works or it doesn't, I have learned something. I've either learned how to do it or I've learned not how to do it. Anyway, I'm digressing. So yes, I would like to have chickens. I had hoped to have them, but as with everything else I've done this year, it's taken so long. Well, I keep saying it in videos, everything takes longer than you think it's going to take. And it's true, it does. Even what seems, oh, it'll take an hour or it'll take 2 hours, it never does. There's always something that crops up. You underestimate the length of time, you underestimate the amount of materials. Sometimes you underestimate the equipment or the tools that you need. Or more likely than not, you underestimate your own capability. And I've done that a few times. I've set off to do something, thought, yeah, I know how to do that. And it quickly becomes apparent you're not quite as expert as you thought you were. But it is all a learning curve. Once you've done it right, then you don't forget that. You sometimes forget your mistakes, but once you've got it right, then you're okay for repetition in the future. So yeah, chickens I would like to have, and I certainly will next year. Fish, yes, I would like, and I'm hoping that I can get the other pond dug, and assuming that does hold water, then yes. Fish are really easy. Well, I think they are. I haven't done it yet. A really easy and reliable food source. You just leave them to it. If you're using the more hardy, natural wild fish, and in my case, I was thinking about perch, then in theory, you put them in the pond, and they will eventually breed, and there'll be a regular food source there. You don't have to feed them as such. Unlike chickens or other animals that you might want to rear. So yeah, fish and chickens is the plan. It would be nice to have a goat on there as a milk source, because grid down scenario, powdered milk is going to run out at some point, and they're not going to be making any more of it. So yeah, goats for milk, depending on what kind they are. Potentially a meat source as well, and goats will eat pretty much anything, so you don't need to worry too much about feed, unlike things like sheep or cows, where you do need to think about feed, particularly in the winter months. Thought about rabbits, but I'm not quite sure about rabbits. A lot of work for a little reward, I think. I don't know, never say never, we'll see. But at the moment, I do have a reliable source of rabbits, because there's millions of them now. They've been breeding away over the summertime, and there's been a bit of a bumper harvest of them, so they might need attention this year. Let me just lean in again and say, this chat about land reminds me of some, it's from the book. Yeah. What did we do with our rights? This is true. They've all disappeared, I guess, over time. But having said that, planning laws in the UK, as we know them now, didn't really kick in until after World War II. So it's not that long ago that we gave up our rights. I'm just taking a quick look to see where we are on time. We're at 8:33 already. And you'll know from my last live stream that I like to finish things at 9 o'clock, so I can still get some sleep before getting up for work. Anybody got any more for any more? We've mentioned food. Thoughts on self-defense in the UK? I think somebody might have mentioned that in a previous video or in the last live stream. I'm not really sure. If you've seen my videos, you'll know that I don't really talk that much. There are a million channels out there that talk endlessly about knives, and you see, as soon as you start saying those words, you're at risk of the algorithm kicking in and throwing you off channel. rules in the UK, I don't know where you are. It's Lux. You're asking about the UK. Firearms laws in the UK are extremely strict, and while I do have them, they're not cheap. There are massive restrictions on getting the license to get them, and once you've got them, there are massive restrictions on where you can actually use them, which essentially is at a gun club, or depending on what kind of firearm it is, on land with the landowner's permission, and that landowner in turn has to have permission from the License and Firearms Licensing Authority to allow people onto that land to use those. So the restrictions and the effort in order to obtain them is massive. There are alternatives out there, and without going into huge depth about it, things like crossbows, they're readily available. Though having said that, there was an attempt earlier this year, in fact, to try and get those licensed, as we do with firearms. At the moment, you don't need a license, but as with everything else here in the UK, restrictions are getting tighter and tighter every year, even with things with such as air rifles. For the I forget what poundage it is now. I think it's under 12 foot-pound. If Covid was on the chat, he could tell me. But yeah, there are different kinds of air rifles, and there is a threshold in terms of power output of the air rifle. For the lower end of the scale, you don't need a license. For that upper end of the scale, you do need a license, a firearms license, that is. So yeah, really complex subject, really difficult subject to stay on the right side of the law with. Could you use a slingshot with ball bearings? I don't think I could use it to defend my land, which is what you're asking. I think if we were in that type of grid down scenario, that's not going to put people off. But you could use it to catch small wildlife, small game, birds and perhaps squirrels at a push. What do you class as a base? Not quite sure what you mean about that. Paul, we'll have to rephrase that. What if people find your land and your stuff if it's a real grid down scenario? Well, that's back to what we were just talking about in terms of self-defense. Nobody's mentioned yet what it is that they're doing right now in terms of their prepping. Somebody did say they were looking for land, but are other people thinking about planting? I hope you're all thinking about topping up on your long-term foods. I did a little trip. I do it every Friday just to pick up. It is literally a basket of stuff, normally fresh veg and milk. But I did take the chance to top up on some tinned meat again. I did a little, not an audit, a stock take, shall we say, a couple of weekends ago, just to see what I had. Somebody did say that they had a year's worth of food. I don't in tinned meat, I must say. It is maybe a little haul, but I am struggling for space. Once the everything's finished on the cabin, I can start shuffling some stuff out there. But in terms of other long-term foods, dried stuff particularly, I'm well in excess of a year for rice, beans, pulses, stuff like that. A big dog helps keep intruders away. It does. I did watch your personal hygiene vid. Yeah, Ash, I hope that was useful, the personal hygiene video. People have kind of paid a little bit more attention to that since COVID started, but they've kind of focused on the disinfectant sprays and wipes, sort of hand gels and surface sanitizers. I don't think that many of them were stocking up on toothbrushes, toothpastes and shampoos, which they should have been, because you do need it. Monkey Chops has bought a vacuum sealer. Well done, that man or lady, I don't know which, because you have male and female monkeys. The vacuum sealer is one of my better buys. If I were to kind of do my top 3 things that have been my better buys, the Red Tractor would have been top of that list probably, for all the work that it's been doing this past year. I have, if I'm honest, I've probably abused it to death. It's not really intended, I don't think, for running up and down an uneven, very uneven in places field, particularly going over those damned ant hills or mole hills or whatever they are. They are ant hills rather than mole hills. It's certainly not designed for that, but bless it, it's just kept on going. It really has, over all kinds of rough terrain, and for probably longer than it should in a straight run. I mean, I've been running it out there for literally hours, but it's held up well. In terms of other best buys, vacuum sealer is definitely one of those. It's so much easier, both in terms of use and storage space, than those soda bottles. But if you can't afford a vacuum sealer, then don't let that stop you from putting aside dry foods. Just save up your Coca-Cola or lemonade bottles. Get a few oxygen absorbers from eBay or Amazon and stick them in there. I've still got stuff in the roof space you'll have seen in videos over this year. I've still got bottles and bottles and bottles of red lentils, yellow lentils, butter beans, rice, sugar. Most of that is from kind of 2014 to 2016, and it's still perfectly fine in there. Have I seen the movie The Road? Yep, I have. Some bits, actually, I was thinking, really? Are you going to do that? But has it been cold around the cabin? The other video looked like it was a bit crisp. It has been cold this last couple of weeks. We've took a bit of a dip in temperatures. We had a frost, not last weekend, the weekend before. That was our first real frost. And then a couple of days after that, midweek, I had ice on the car windscreen when I went to work. Not had any so far this week, and we're not forecast for any. We're just forecast for damned rain again. But it is on the way, I think. But the cabin is quite warm. Get the wood burner on. Even with the door open, I'm quite warm. And once the garden room's in there, it'll be even more warm. Nelly, hi. You missed the start. I think I figured out how to get it straight onto replay. So when I do finish this, you should be able to pick it up straight away off the replay. Could I start again? Yeah, I can on the replay. I promise I will figure out before the next one how to do this little alert thing. Hoot Blesser was telling me earlier that I should have put out this, I think it's a 30-minute warning. That sounds a bit like a nuclear attack. But apparently there is a way of doing that. I've not been doing this. This is my second live stream. And I've not quite figured out all of the technical ways and of things that you do, but I will by the next one. I'll have something to remind you beforehand. Have you put a cot in the original cabin room? I haven't put a cot in there. I have the wood to make a cot in there, and I have both a normal mattress and an inflatable mattress. I'm debating which to put in. Going back to this planning permission thing we were talking about, what you can use your land for, I do have to be a little bit careful, and who knows, Mr. Planning Inspector might be looking at this video. The cabin as we are now, is not for residential use. If Mr. Planning Man is watching, it isn't. It's for occasional use while I'm working on my agricultural land and tending to my plants and animals, the chickens when they come. But yeah, I will be sleeping over. I had hoped that I was going to get some time off over this next couple of weeks, but the way things are at work at the moment, I'm doubting that. But I do have time off definitely booked already at Christmas. So yes, at some point I will be there. I will be sleeping there. And I'll be doing videos while I'm down there, obviously. Always keep the pantry stocked up, have a shed with 2 big freezers. Big freezers, solar. That is a big hole in my preps, I have to be honest. I would like to have more freezer than I do. My freezer, you've seen my kitchen in the cooking videos, it's tiny. And my fridge and my freezer are both tiny. The freezer is full. It's always as full as I can cram it full. And I don't put things like frozen fruit or frozen vegetables or ice or stuff like that in there. It is literally jam-packed full of different kinds of meat. But I do wish I had more. I do keep looking for a small freezer. I could, in theory, put one in my little shed that's just outside the house. Though that shed is a bit raggedy. I was planning on getting rid of it. And hopefully I can maybe get one down on the cabin, and then that way I'd have extra storage and in 2 places, if that makes sense, in my what would be a bug out location and in the home. But yeah, it is a hole in my preps. Hundreds of locally frozen fish. We're back to my pond. Hopefully I'll have fresh fish at one point, or at some point, I should say. I always buy books instead of Kindle. It is better to have books, and you can see a selection of mine in the bookcase there. Shop bought have tougher skins than my planted foods, so my foods are prone to bruising. Are you talking about stuff you've just pulled out of the garden, Nelly, when you talk about soft skins? Because as I understand it, when you do particularly potatoes, you first lift those out of the ground. You're supposed to just leave them overnight for the skins to set, and then you can store them. And then you're not, because the skins, when you pull them out of the ground for the first time, you can just rub them with your fingers. So maybe just leave them for a day or overnight. Freezer needs emptying when the power goes out. It does. You're right. If it's in your house and your grid goes down, you're going to have issues. So your first food you should eat is out your fridge and your freezer, unless, of course, you've got alternative energy. So portable petrol generator, or better still, solar. Make sure to have cash stashed. Yes, this is true. If grid does go down, even if it's just a temporary power failure locally, and you go to a cash point, you're not going to get any cash. I wouldn't be storing large amounts of cash. If I could have large amounts of cash, that would be nice. But I do keep a supply of cash locked away in the safe, and generally in smaller notes, because if you do need to go on a grid down to the shop and something costs £10 and you've only got a 20, they're not going to give you change. Most people don't carry cash. A lot of stuff now is cashless, particularly with COVID. They're encouraging you not to use cash. The Great Reset thing. Is there a Great Reset? I don't honestly know. I've seen lots of YouTube channels saying that everything that's going on now is coordinated. I don't think the crop losses are coordinated, or the pest or disease that lots of countries have had. I don't think that's been set up. COVID, Who knows? I would like to think not, because we have had outbreaks before of different things, and there are a lot of dodgy diseases out in the wilderness, and if we keep wandering in there and cutting the trees down, then sooner or later we're bound to pick something up. I think there is an agenda to divide the population, and that's been going on for quite a while now. I mean, that's what politics is all about, isn't it? Divide and conquer, keep people set against each other in their little factions, and they're that busy worrying about fighting each other, they're not worrying about what the government's doing. But then I'm straying into politics, and I don't normally do that. Easy way to start an argument with everybody. I'm sure crypto was created by the government. I think they plan for crypto to be used by the masses and get rid of cash. Crypto is great until the grid goes down, and then you've lost it all. At least if you have cash would work for a while, until, if it was a long-term grid down, cash wouldn't work, because it is paper at the end of the day. It's not worth anything. Cash is a promise by the government. And you know what happens when the government promises you something. Barter would be the way to go, long-term grid down. Not necessarily talk about gold and silver. See lots of channels talk about that. I get the idea that it's a way of preserving your wealth. There's a channel called Alaska Prepper who does store gold and silver, but he tends to not store it for barter. He tends to store it as a hedge against inflation, which is true, actually. Your pound or your dollar each year is becoming less and less and less in value. The government can't keep printing billions of pounds or dollars at a whim and magic money out of thin air. The more it prints in this quantitative easing, the less your original pounds and dollars are worth. So precious metal is a hedge against inflation and a devaluing currency. But I think long-term grid down, you're into the good old days of bartering. I'll swap you a chicken for some tractor spares or whatever. I think that would be the way that we would go long-term grid down. In true something it's a fan, stocks and talent will be trained at first. Not quite sure what you mean by that, Nelly. Average Joe has no clue about gold or silver. Is that me? Yeah, there are loads of YouTube videos, but be careful with people who are pushing gold and silver. They might be actually selling it themselves as a business, rather than having your own personal best interests in mind. Hoots off to bed? Surely not. If you are, I'll see you later. Enjoy. I'm just looking at the time. I've got 10 minutes left. Well, actually less than 10 minutes before it's my bedtime as well. So if there are any extra comments, now's your time to get them in, or questions. It has been real nice to reach out and connect with everybody. I get this in now just in case I don't have time later. And it is nice to see so many people turn up. Really do appreciate that. I mean, I'm a small channel. I can't say that my productions are the most glitzy on YouTube, because they're not. But hopefully, out of all of the stuff that comes out on the video, even if there's just one little thing that you found interesting or useful, then that's a done for me, I guess, because that's what all this is about. It's about just trying to promote prepping as an issue or a lifestyle, if you can do that. Incidentally, we talked quite a bit about land earlier on. You don't have to have huge amounts of land to be able to try and become a little bit more self-sufficient. You'll have seen in some of my early videos my experimenting with pots out on the patio outside the house. So you don't have to have going back to the start about focusing on stuff that you can't change and instead focus on things that you can change. Don't be obsessed that you have to have this huge piece of land in order to try and become self-sufficient. You don't. You can do something today with a very small space and over time gradually build up. Good look. Buying a rocket stove. I thought about building a rocket stove, to be honest, until I used all my breeze blocks building the cabin. It is something that I would like to do. Two kind of fires, really: a burn pit for rubbish or refuse or garbage, whatever you want to call it, and some kind of rocket stove as another cooking solution, but clearly outdoors, not indoors. Well, thank you, Ash. I've reminded you to buy things for barter. Food items, toiletry items, over-the-counter medicines would be useful. Alcohol, cigarettes. Not sure how long cigarettes would keep though, but alcohol indefinitely, but just small bottles, not the big bottles. You don't want to be, because bartering is bartering. You have what you have in your hands. So if you go to meet somebody, whether it's a little roadside market or a neighbour or whatever, and you want something that's of small value, make sure that you're taking something that's of small value as well. Don't take a huge bottle of vodka and then come away with a couple of eggs. So yeah, your barter items should be in relative different value streams, if that makes sense. Chocolate, yeah, there'd be a big demand for chocolate. Nappies and baby food, it's something that people need to prep, certainly, and I think I mentioned that in my hygiene video. It's easily forgotten. I'm old enough to remember the days where we didn't have disposable nappies. Now that was a chore, I know, I've done that. I've been there and done that. Has anybody noticed coffee getting short in supply in stores? I haven't here in the UK. Tea and coffee, actually, thinking about it, the shelves did seem quite well stocked. But I guess it depends where you are and where on the supply chain that you actually sit. Because as COVID kind of peaks and troughs, then the number of people off work peaks and troughs. And it might just be that you're unlucky and you live in that bit of the supply chain where the drivers have been off with COVID or off isolating. We use washable nappies. It is a skill. And yeah, deep breaths required as well. Well, I'm just looking at the time, guys. It's 20:57, so I've got a couple of minutes. So I'm just about ready to wrap it up. Put my living room back to how it should be, and then it'll soon be time to get into my bed. The alarm clock will be ringing to wake me up in the morning for work. So if you don't mind, I shall take my leave of you. I hope you did find something useful in here, and indeed I hope you find something useful in all of my normal videos. Fingers crossed for the weekend. As I said, it is forecast for rain, but I have kind of preempted that a little bit by pre-painting some of those wooden feather edge boards to try and get ahead of the game a little bit. So I'll be going all out as much as I can to try and get that finished off this weekend, and then I can sit back a little bit, relax, and do the inside of that garden room. Yeah, thank you very much for watching the live stream tonight. I will try and get the tech side of it right to give you a heads up for the next one, and I look forward to seeing you all in the videos at the weekend. Wherever you are, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Thanks again for coming today.